Welcome to Black and White Banter, ladies and gentlemen. And I tell you what, there is somebody in the sky who does not want me to do live streams. I've got a lovely show planned for you tonight, and my laptop decided to die on me because the only thing I didn't do was plug my laptop in. Got my camera set up, got my speaker set up. So I'm just going to start this as I mean to go on because I do want to post this as a video afterwards. So let's, a little bit later than planned, let's dive in. So I've got a fantastic show planned tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all is well. I can see 17 people have stuck around, and that's why I love yous all. So much to talk about. Massive game tomorrow. And I tell you what, everyone's calling it a banker against Sheffield United. I would like to hope that it is, but that makes me more nervous. But there is no room for failure against the worst team in the league. We've got very briefly an awful game of football at Selhurst Park on Wednesday to talk about. And I've got two very special guests on the stream tonight. One who I've known for quite a long time now, unfortunately, from my away day, gallivanting, Mr. Andy Hill, who I'll get in a second, and someone else who I've got to know more recently through this lovely platform that is YouTube, and that is Wayne, who's just started a club that's got its first meet-up. It's Shearer's Bar before the match tomorrow. So you don't want to miss it because it's quite an interesting one, how fast this club has grown. But I'll let him tell you exactly what that is. So I am going to get my first guest who I've just been talking about in. I'm going to get Mr. Andy in, who is ready and waiting a little bit longer than planned. There he is. Buongiorno, Mr. Hill. How are you?
Evening, how are you?
I'm good. I've got just to prove to everyone that me and Andy do know each other, and he's not just some random person that I've hooked off WhatsApp. I've got a little photo of us, Andy. Let me just get my photos up. There we are, and you can probably tell why I chose this one because it's not the most flattering photo of you, but I didn't have time to zoom in on it, unfortunately. But yes, this photo.
That's the one that you put my head on Greg's window, isn't it?
That is the photo where I have put Greg's window eating his bacon sandwich. Yes, first and foremost, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. I'm very good. I've had a couple of days off work, 3 days off work. So I've had a game of golf today, something nice to eat and a few beers in my local. So I'm tickety-boo.
Happy days. I'm not jealous at all as I was sat at my laptop till about 8 o'clock tonight. And he's got a beer, which, do you know what? I'm going to join you in that one. I've been waiting to crack this open. And I think after those technical issues, I think I deserve one. Right, so cheers. Before we get into a bit of football talk, cheers. Andy, you've obviously supported Newcastle a lot longer than me. You've been following them all over the country a lot longer than I have. I'm going to ask you some quick-fire questions as the first official guest on this show before I get my next guest on. First one, what is your happiest memory very quickly as a match of supporting Newcastle?
David Kelly against Portsmouth to probably keep as a football club. Ooh. Grimsby Town to win the league. Beating Man United 5-0. I think was a biggie.
Not jealous that I wasn't there for that one at all. Next very quick fire question. This is a juicy one. What is your most controversial Newcastle opinion that a lot of people don't agree with you on?
There's a few.
Go on then. Give us your juiciest one.
Jeepers. Sell Bruno in the summer.
Ooh, that should get the comments firing up nice and early, which I like. And are Newcastle going to win a trophy in the next 5 years?
Yes.
That's what I like to hear. Right. Before we get into the chat, those are my quick fire questions. I'm now going to get my next guest in, who I've just mentioned earlier, Mr. Wayne. Let me add him to the stage, and I'll just get my presentation off because we don't need that right now. Let's add Wayne in. There we go. Hello, Wayne. How are you?
Spot on now, I'm on here, mate. Spot on.
What? Do you mean you've been impatiently waiting for some idiot whose laptop died?
Well, I just had another beer, you know. It's easy.
Right. Yes, I think we've all got a beer in our hands. So cheers to Friday, everyone, before we dive into this chat. Right. Wayne, before we dive in, and you're giving a bit of a name, a bit of the game away with your name there, just underneath your actual name. into what you're going to talk to me about in a second. I'm going to put the same questions to you. You've had a little bit longer to think about these now, Wayne. So what is your happiest memory supporting Newcastle?
I think it was Denver Bar hat-trick down at Stoke on a cold Tuesday night.
That's a random one, right? Right, I remember that. It was Halloween, wasn't it?
It was, yes, it was. And the atmosphere was immense. The old song coming out, Denver scored 10 since Ramadan.
Love that chant.
It was class. The chant was amazing.
I absolutely love that chant. Next question. What is your most controversial opinion? Because I've already had Sell Bruno in the summer from Andy, which I haven't had a chance to check the comments yet.
I was thinking the same thing as Andy, because if this financial fair doesn't change, then I think we've got to. If £100 million comes, then fair enough. I agree with Andy on that one. But the most controversial one is moving stadiums. I've been to some good stadiums this year.
Don't say it.
Obviously, Wembley, went to Dortmund, the American Mercedes. I didn't go there, but I seen it. And if we've got the chance to get the best football stadium in the world and move a couple of miles out of town, controversial, yes.
Oh my!
But if it's the best stadium in the world,
I'm going to agree, Wayne, not with your statement, but I'm going to agree with that is a very controversial and potentially unpopular opinion, because that's probably a video in itself for another day. But yes, you've done exactly what I asked and my last, and I hope those two comments from both of you do get the comments fired up. I think people are being a bit polite at the moment. If you want to slag these two off for what they've just said, that's fine. That's what this show's all about. That's what I'm actively promoting. Next question. Do you think Newcastle will win a trophy in the next 5 years?
Yes. European Cup next year.
Oh, next year? European?
Yeah.
Tell you what, I don't know how many of these you've had whilst you've been waiting, but I'll drink to that. Right. So, before we get into all the football talk, and obviously there is plenty to talk about with the match tomorrow, I'm going to very quickly, Wayne, let you do the honours, and I'll share some photos on the screen when you want me to. And please tell everyone who's watching now about what you've created more recently and what the meetup is tomorrow at Shearer's Bar before the match.
So we've created a Newcastle United Armed Forces Supporters Club, as it says on the screen there. What it is, I reached out to a guy. They had 60 members back in, it was only 40 days ago, something like that. I went, do you want a few more members because your social media isn't the best? He went, yeah, we're going to create a committee. So there was a few of us who got the match from the armed forces. So like Army, RAF, Navy got together and we created the Newcastle United Armed Forces Club. So our first meet is tomorrow. So the launch party is tomorrow. And there's going to be 300 confirmed coming. Johnny Burris is going to pop in. 300 confirmed coming tomorrow. We're going to see the Lord Mayor first to get a nod. So she's going to
I tell you what, I'm just going to stop you there, Wayne. I've got some photos. Whilst you're talking, I can share through some photos that I can stick on the screen. So, you just carry on.
Yeah, so there's our logo there. So that was put out a vote on Facebook, and that was the one that was chosen. So tomorrow morning, we've got the Newcastle United Armed Forces support cake. Got the flag, obviously, behind. It's got the polo shirts. It's all good.
You've got a cake. Is that a cake?
That's a cake. Yeah, that's a cake.
Nice.
So
and there's the launch party.
There we are. And there's the Lord Mayor's endorsement there.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Wayne. Were you telling me earlier today that the BBC have got involved in this, or is that a bit hush-hush?
Yeah, so the committee spoke to the BBC today, so we don't know how far that's going. It's going to be on either TV or the radio on Monday. So, yeah, that'll be decent.
Wonderful. So anyone who's watching this, and I know there is only 30 people, but obviously if this goes out after some other people might be, why did you want to do this, and why would you promote anyone who is sort of ex-services to get in touch and find the group on social media?
So there's a lot of ex-services out there that don't fit into life when they come out of the forces, and they need that little step up, really. And I've done 23 years in the Navy, and I've been outside for 2 years now. And I can see why, because coming out the forces after that amount of time, you need that step up. And football's a great way of bringing people together, especially us Geordies. You know what I mean? Because we can just talk to each other. And if that's what it means to somebody, to bring somebody back into the community, because there's a lot of mental health out there. And what our plan is in a year's time, but we've given ourselves a year as a committee to start a charity and push it forward that way. So that's our plan of attack.
Wonderful, wonderful, and obviously with those plans in mind, if I was to ask you, and I know it's that hypothetical question that nobody likes, where would you see this group being going into 2025? Are you just wanting to just keep growing? Have you got more events planned, or?
Yeah, so I haven't announced it yet, but
Exclusive.
It's exclusive here. So we've got our first meeting on the last game of the season, so the 11th of May.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got our meeting. So I think we're going to be meeting in the Strawberry 9 o'clock in the morning for our first meeting. So
nice.
Yeah, that's in the plan, but I haven't pushed it yet because the Strawberry owner's on holiday and he's back on Sunday, so I need to confirm with him on Sunday.
Well, Gary's seen your launch party mentioned earlier on a podcast, so he knows all about it. He's wishing you well there, which is nice to see. Right, that's absolutely wonderful. I'm all for that. Any way of getting people together, and like you say, people who maybe feel a little bit secluded after coming out of the forces, I'm all about that. It sounds like things have grown probably faster than you expected, which is class.
Yeah, crazy. It's went crazy, to be honest. But what we need to do now is get it and push it forward as a group instead of like loads of individuals, bring it together. So we've been having weekly committee meetings, and it's just like, right, we need to do this, we need to do that, and to bring it forward and push it where it's at.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
I mean, even the fact that you're having meetings about it. I think I remember speaking to you at the stages when you'd set everything up, and it was just, let's get a Facebook group going and see if we can get together. What I've been blown away when we've chatted on WhatsApp and stuff is how fast things have kind of developed. And I look forward to coming along for a cheeky pint tomorrow, but I am a bit worried that I won't get in because Shearer's Bar queues can be an absolute nightmare on match days.
Yeah, so the reason why we're doing it the Shearer's Bar is because obviously it's got the 3 o'clock kick on off, so we meet at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's a lot of lads that can't get tickets, so we said, right, let's meet in Shearer's at 11 o'clock, and then we'll stop in there until kick off. And there's a lot of lads who's got tickets who wants me ticket. I'm just going to stop in Shearer's all day.
Oh, class.
Just went mental.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Right. Of course, there's a lot of things to talk about on the football side. But my first one, and I'll put it just across the screen, that I want to talk about. And actually, I think Andy, you will have a good story on this that isn't even football related. I'm going to stick it on the screen now. What happened at Selhurst Park on Wednesday? But more importantly, Andy, I didn't go down. What was that journey like? Because I've only heard bits and it sounded like it was absolute hell.
It was honking. Honestly, it was so bad. We left at 10 o'clock, and I think I got to the queue to get in the turnstile at 20 to 8. A fatal accident through Tuesday night into Wednesday morning on the A1, shut the A1. So we got Borough Bridge or somewhere, God knows where we were, stuck for an hour. And then we moved again very, very slowly. Hit the diversion, country lanes, 61-seater bus, absolutely honking. So we did Weatherby in 4 hours, 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
And we had 4 hours something left. And I'm like, if the M25 is a nightmare, we're just literally not even getting to the game. M25 was kind to her. Came off Junction 7 on the 25 in that way. Traffic was really good, so we made it. But honestly, it's the worst ground in the Premiership, Selhurst Park.
Well, that was good. That was going to push me up my next question. So you sound obviously relieved after setting off so early in the morning, as anyone would be, to get there. But when the match actually started, were you sort of annoyed that you had made it for it? Because I mean, that's where I'm going to bring you both in on this. What do you think both went wrong on Wednesday? I mean, is it one of them where we just bury it because Palace? I mean, I said it in my blog on socials. We probably don't talk about the opposition being good enough because you only focus on your own team. But in my opinion, Palace would have given anyone a really good game at the moment because they are in that sort of form. Is that how we look at it, or what did you both make of it?
I just thought we were awful on the night. I just thought we were awful, and you know what? They're half decent as well, and they'd had a good run, hadn't they? They'd beaten Liverpool and then turned over West Ham in their local derby or whatever it is. But I just thought we were just bang average again, and I think when we're bad, we're really bad. And Wednesday night was one of them when we were like really bad. There's no middle ground. We're either wonderful and find results come easy, and then I don't know, just every now and again this season, we just seems to have had like a proper stinker. And Wednesday night was another one of them. Whether it's a travel, whether it's the injuries, we had the longest break. We should have been fresh. I think you give them a couple of days off. I just don't know. We get games where too many are just not at the races, but they all seem to do it collectively. It seems to be a group that are just not there. And Wednesday night was the same, but hey, fair play to them. They had a young kid in the middle of the park. I thought bossed the game. Can't remember what he was called.
Is that Adam Wharton?
Yeah, he played
I thought he had a
really,
good game.
really well. Really, really good. They look lively up front. I think it's Ezzy, isn't it? I don't think he'll stay there much after this season. No. But they were good. They were good, and we were very, very much below par, and we got what we deserved. I think totally.
And what about you, Wayne?
Coming off the back of Tottenham, like we went in that game positive, and I thought, you know what, we've got a good chance here to put one over on them. But we were slow in the middle of the park. Obviously, we had Longstaff, Bruno, Anderson there. Obviously, Gordon and Barnes had a bit pace about them, but there was just nothing there. Coming off the back of it, it was disappointing to watch, to be honest. Because if we are pushing for Euro, we need to be competing with games like that.
We've got to beat teams like that. Away from home, we have, and the front three is as good as anybody in the league, and we just didn't seem to get around them. We just didn't seem to even give them a problem anyway. I don't know what the stats were. I read something about 7 shots or something. I don't know where I was for them 7 shots, but I can't remember 7 of them. But it's like we're just bang average again, and we do get them.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's an interesting point that Gary's raised in the comments there about momentum. And again, it was something I talked about earlier in the week, that it sounds like a really cringy, embarrassing excuse to say that, that they've had that rest. That's no excuse to play the way we did. And I agree with that. But what Crystal Palace would probably argue, coming off that West Ham win after scoring 5 goals 3 days earlier, that momentum can probably add 10% extra on the pitch. And to me, Crystal Palace just looked like we wanted it more. And I said at half time to one of my mates that I expected Palace to drop off because their energy levels, there's no way they could maintain them, and they just continued in the same way in the second half.
I think that takes them out of relegation now, doesn't it? So I think they had a bit fight over them, and they were fighting for something. And I think obviously the manager said, right, if you win this, that's you out of relegation. You're not going to get relegated. So it seemed like they had something to play for.
But it's interesting that both of you are kind of giving me the answer of which I expected, and that seems to be a common theme across socials as well from what I've seen. None of us can quite pinpoint what went wrong on Wednesday. Like, sometimes you could argue, in the past we've argued that Dan Burn was targeted, that was a problem. There's been talk of strikers not, attacking players. Almiron's come in for a lot of that, which I understand because, I'm not a big Almiron fan myself. But on Wednesday, it was a case of like, even in the aftermath for me, it was just one of them nights where tactically I thought we were set up okay. Palace played us in our own game and they just did it better. And that's why I'm not too worried about it. I don't know about you. I just want to move on very quickly, and I'm glad we've got a game 3 days later.
Yeah, I get that, but I think that's the sort of game that'll secure that top 6 place. So, Matty, you beat Palace and you think, you know what, we'll be top 6 now. And now we just seem to be looking over our shoulder again. We've got, Brighton will be no slouches at St James's. They won't. We've got Man United away, Brentford away. They'll not be any slouches. And we needed to get something. Apparently only had 13 trained for 10 days or whatever it was, but we've got to be sharper going into them games. I get with the momentum thing. I absolutely agree with you. I just think, coming off beating Liverpool and then absolutely hammering West Ham, taking them off the park. But come on, the professional footballers.
No, I know.
They need to be up for 90 minutes of football. That you've got players on there that are saying, well, I might not stay if you don't get into Europe. I might not stay. And then you put a black and white shirt on, you walk onto a pitch and really, you're not at your best. Well, don't have a go at the whole club not being in Europe then.
It's interesting you mentioned about players leaving, because I saw a lot of people saying it's that kind of performance that will make Bruno turn his head. Now, in my opinion, yes, that can be said about a lot of matches this season where he's carried us. I thought Bruno was very off the pace on Wednesday. I thought a lot of his passes forward were sloppy. And yes, again, what I've seen generally, the opinion is, well, he was trying to make things happen. It's still okay to say that Bruno, by his standards on Wednesday, for me, he's passing, his successful passing stats aren't quite there. He didn't have a very good day, so I don't buy into that particular match being a reason. And I know, yes, it might be an accumulation of matches that are getting him frustrated this season, but yeah, do we just move on, Wayne? Do we literally just put that one to one side and just literally go? I mean, we have to with tomorrow's match in mind, but is that one where we don't analyse things too much? I don't know.
You've got to put it to bed, haven't you? Because that was the game where, like, right, lads, it's going to be pissing down. And people slipping all over the shop. We need to get back to ours, regroup. I think Sheffield United haven't won a game in 10 games. So that's a perfect game for us to bounce back and get into them European spots, like stay in the European spots. So, yeah, definitely it's one of them games, especially with the injuries we've had. We're going to have, it's been a roller coaster season, hasn't it? And that was one of the lows. And we might have a high on Saturday. We might have a low. We just don't know what team's going to turn up.
Yeah,
but yeah, you need to put them to bed, definitely.
But I tell you what, Newcastle United could well go and get beat off Sheffield United tomorrow. It's just a Newcastle thing, isn't it? It's just a Newcastle thing.
I know. But I thought under this new regime we were coming away from classic Newcastle things. I thought that wasn't what we do anymore. Like, you know, all those cliches were starting to get put to bed. But that brings me on to my next topic. So of course, I didn't want to talk about Crystal Palace for too long for that exact reason. It was terrible, and I think I'm happy that we've got a game so fast after. So, Sheffield United. Now, this one, it's being talked about as a banker, and although I don't like that being said out loud, just because I'm a nervous wreck with things like that, I think it's fair to say there's a very, very, very good reason that it's being called a banker, because, you know, the stats against Sheffield United are just absolutely shocking, and the players we will have on the pitch, we have to be doing something. So what's initially, I'll go into a little bit more depth in terms of our team and whatnot, but firstly, I'll start with you and the thoughts on tomorrow's match.
I think we'll beat them. I don't think it'll be as comfortable as what it was down there when they were really poor and we were very good on the day, but you can only play against what you've got in front of you. I think we'll beat them. I think it'll be nervy. I think after Wednesday night, it'll be nervy, unnecessarily nervy. I think it'll be a bit nervy. I think we need to get at them a bit like we did Tottenham, because we're just scared Tottenham. We're all over them, you know, and you've got to do the same tomorrow and just make it easy. They're a poor side, Sheffield United. I was just looking tonight, somebody said in the pub tonight that if we beat them, that's them down tomorrow.
One thing I haven't done, I've got some stats to share on the screen about Sheffield United, which I'll share in a second, just to really hammer home how bad they are. And, you know, I don't like to jinx myself before tomorrow's match, but just to hammer that home a little bit. But in terms of the relegation, maybe someone in the comments might, or Wayne, you might know, I don't actually know how that works. Is it as simple as them losing sends them down, or is it other results?
The 10 points behind Forest, I think.
Yeah, I think the other results have got to go against them as well.
I think we're only 3 games to play after tomorrow. If we beat them, there'll only be 9 available to them, and they'll need 12 to get out. So I think they're pretty much doomed after tomorrow. Right.
And what's your thoughts on tomorrow's game in general, Wayne?
I think, like you say, we need to get amongst them, put some pressure on them, and I think they'll break. I'm going for another Tottenham score, to be honest. So put some pressure on them early on at St James's, and yeah, I think they'll break. No need to be nervous, because let's be honest about this, if we don't beat them tomorrow, or put a good performance, shall I say, then we don't deserve to be in Europe.
I would agree with that. I would always also advise anyone watching this, if we don't win the football match tomorrow, just stay off social media. Because yes, some of the criticism will be deserved, but my God, if there is one thing I've learned about our fan base, I adore our fan base more than anything. But when it is good, it is good. When it is bad, it is like the world has ended and you are not allowed to go outdoors. That's what it feels like. It feels like Boris Johnson has just gone on the screen and put out an announcement. That's how bad things are. But on that note, I'm going to share some stats for everyone to see on the screen right now, just to hammer things home a little bit. So, yes, I do have access to some stats. I mean, the numbers are just absolutely damning. So, fewest goals scored, 31, behind Everton, who we all know have struggled for goals this season, and Burnley, who are right down there with them. The deepest defensive line is an interesting one for me, because that means that we can't rely on Isak getting in behind necessarily. It's not going to be that sort of match. Sheffield United are going to come. Yeah, so I'm just making sure I've got my headings right. That is the deepest. That's not the highest. So they are going to camp in. It's going to be, and I'll take us back to last season, gents, with that defensive line in mind. We struggled last season in January, just before the cup final, against teams that parked the bus. We can expect a lot more of that tomorrow, I would assume. So is that something that will play into our hands? Because we've scored a lot more goals this season than last year. Crazy numbers. Kevin Keegan's entertainers have been made to look like Rafa Benitez. Is that something we should be worried about or not?
I just don't think we're creating enough. Well, I don't think we've got enough confidence or enough bravery around the edge of the box, because we don't take a shot outside the box. We just Wednesday night was a prime example. We just didn't seem to have a pop at goal when the space was in front of you. I just, and I think when we talk about Bruno, these are the sort of games that he really should use his football intelligence to find that ball, to find that pass, to break down these deep defensive lines. He doesn't do it, and he hasn't done it. I think there was a comment on there about Bruno in away defeats and this, that, and the other. Bang average at times, absolutely bang average, and I don't know. We've got to unlock that door tomorrow. I think we're a bit different than last season, though, Matty, with Gordon and Barnes, a bit more pacey when the back lines are defensive are that deep, and we squeeze up a little bit more and put pressure on them. They're not with the best will in the world. They're not good enough to play football from a deep defensive line like Man City, or they're not that sort of level. So if they want to play football at the back, we'll mug them. We'll just mug them.
Yeah. I think. Sorry, Wayne. Go on.
We've got the pace up front, haven't we, to put pressure on them? So we've got the Gordon, Barnes, Isaac, Murphy, and Anderson on the other side, probably. But yeah, we've got that pace to put the pressure on, and if they start messing about with the ball at the back, then that's great for us, I think.
It's an interesting one, because, I mean, off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I can't think of too many teams this season, because our defence hasn't been as good as last year. There hasn't been too many teams have come to St James's Park and set up that way. I think some of us maybe expected Luton to. I didn't know too much about Luton when they came to St James's as an away side, and they literally, every time we scored, we're going to go to the other end and score again. And I think it caught us all off guard, including Eddie Howe and the players. Sorry, I've just realised I've still got that banner saying Selhurst Park on. Silly me. I'm still learning this. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about them setting up like that. I agree with what you mentioned there, Andy, how different we are this season, because we didn't have Gordon doing what he's doing last season, what he's doing now. Totally different animal. Totally different. Isak is Isak. Absolute. And I still don't think Isak's fully fit. And I've been saying that for a while. And yeah, I would like to hope if we play with that press that we know we can and the crowd gets behind them, that Sheffield United just shouldn't be able to cope. And I'll continue on. Now, this is an interesting one. I mean, I haven't focused on threats from Sheffield United too much, because they've scored the lowest goals in the Prem. They've conceded the most, so it would be a bit silly of me to talk about a team that could get relegated tomorrow as threats. But what I found quite interesting is that McBurney, their striker, who I know we probably all see as, well, he's a championship striker. That's the general reputation. His aerial ability isn't too bad, and he's in some pretty decent company on that stat that I've got on the screen there. And I think, for me, this plays into team selection, which I'll touch on with you guys in a second. I think if Dan Burn plays centre-back, that could be key in keeping this gentleman quiet, because he's one of them. He doesn't offer much quality in terms of link-up. He doesn't offer much quality with the ball at his feet. But what he will do is try and rustle our centre-backs up as much as possible. And I think his aerial wins there are quite impressive. That was one of the very few. If I did have any Sheffield United fans watching, I've tried to dig something out for you. So there you go. I've got McBurney's aerial duels won in the Premier League this season.
It's funny at the top of that. It's funny at the top of that. Calvert-Lewin was there as well. And did you have a stat before where Everton have struggled to score goals?
Yes, yeah.
He's obviously winning them from a sort of 50-50 ball lumped up field rather than in an offensive area in the 18-yard box to try to score from a corner or a free kick, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I see a common pattern there, to be honest, Andy. It's funny you touch on that and I didn't actually get them stats. I should have with regards to long passes. We fully expect Sheffield United tomorrow to really tap into that high ball. And I watched the Man United highlights. They surprised me, and I know Man United have been like Jekyll and Hyde in the Premier League this season, but they did score goals. They did press Onana, who forced him into mistakes. They did drive into the box and get lots of bodies. I did have some images to share of that, but I just ran out of time, as I normally do. And yeah, I fully expect this team to really, really dig in and try and fight for everything that they can. But it's going to be an interesting one in that sense, because I don't think many teams have come to St James's Park this season and played like they have. So that'll lead me to my next point. As I've just mentioned, Dan Burn. Is there any selection changes you guys would make going into this one on the teams? From if I base that off who we played against Crystal Palace, which some of you might have some changes. I'll start with you, Wayne.
I would say if Tino's fit, then get him in there. Liverpool, because he has impressed.
And how would you set up that defence with him in mind?
So, like you said, Kraft, Sharp, Burn, centre back, Anderson left, and then Tino right back. I drop Murphy.
Right, okay.
With Tino in there.
And midfield into attack, would you keep that exactly the same? Or because I know, my God, he's everyone's favourite player to drag through the mud this season, and that's fine. We all have our opinions. I mean, Longstaff is coming in for pelters week after week after week after week. I mean, I saw on Twitter today someone suggested that White should play instead of Longstaff. White, who's never really kicked the ball for us apart from odd minutes here and there. So that's the kind of pelters he's coming in for at the moment.
You got to keep the Longstaff, Bruno, and then Gordon, Barnes, and Isaac there. You've got to keep them there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. There's much more options than that, to be honest.
No, I think Eddie Howe's hands are tied in that sense. And
yeah.
Would you make any changes tomorrow, Andy?
I think his presser was interesting again today, wasn't he? He didn't mention Trippier. I don't know whether there's another surprise brewing. Somebody that's been injured that's back in the fold tomorrow. Seems to be the Eddie Howe way. I think when Tino's fit, he's got to play. I'd be tempted with Lewis Hall somewhere tomorrow as well.
I was just going to ask you both about Lewis Hall.
I think he's got a bit of quality. You know, you go on to Longstaff and bless him. You know, he had such a good season last season, and he's allegedly playing with a broken foot or whatever. But I think the patience of everybody's just running out with him. Like, yes, I guess if he got tugged in any other place of the park, it would have been a free kick on Wednesday night. But he goes down far too easy on Wednesday night, mind. Far too easy.
I know we're not diving too much into the Palace match, but just on that note, I mean, yes, I agree with what you're saying, that he probably could have stayed on his feet. I don't know whether his momentum was knocked off balance, things like that. But for me, it's a Stonewall penalty. It's a banker. It's an absolute. You can't physically put your arm over someone when they run the pace like he does. And I think his face of guilt. I mean, obviously, I know you were there, Andy. I was watching it on the dodgy stream that I was watching it on. The commentator, I'd never heard him before. He was British. When it went to VAR, his first reaction was when he saw the replay himself. He went, "Yeah, this is going to be given." And I was just sat thinking, "Yeah, bring it on." And
I think in real time, I thought it was Stonewall. I absolutely thought it was Stonewall in real time. You know, absolutely. I've watched the replay a couple of times. I'm not so sure. I think he goes down far, far too easy. Look, refereeing's an art, VAR's an art. You know, it's not working at all. But that's another session as well, Matty. I think I don't think you change the midfield tomorrow. I don't think you'll change the front three. I would just bring Lewis Hall in somewhere tomorrow, where
Instead of
I'm not
Anderson.
I don't know. Well, Murphy was awful on Wednesday night, by the way. I don't know what was the matter with him. He was awful, and it's not like him. He normally gives 100%. He's normally aggressive. He's pacey. He doesn't give up. He was just like the rest of them. Poor. I don't know. I'm struggling with Dan Burn this year as well. I think teams, when he's played left back, I think teams have really kind of found him out. I thought he was great at centre half against Tottenham. Mind, as soon as I thought he was absolutely exceptional. Son went off after 50, 60 minutes ago, Tottenham, and that tells you he just wasn't getting a sniff. And when he looked, but I don't know. Tottenham was seeming to play a back three, and then this inverted full-back thing where the two full-backs were like playing really, really high, which allowed us then to press higher up. Wednesday night, we didn't seem to do that. We played more of a 4, where we just didn't seem to get the balance right. But I don't think you change it very much. I think you'll go with what finished on, what started on Wednesday night. I don't think you make any changes at all.
And just very quickly, and I feel like it's going to be a conversation again in the pubs and stuff tomorrow, before and after the match. And I don't expect him to suddenly put in a worldly performance. I mean, what are your thoughts on Sean Longstaff? I mean, he's for me this season. I feel like football fans in general always, when the going isn't amazing like it was last season, when we could do no wrong, like literally Champions League football, cup final, everything was tickety boo. I feel like there is a bit of a scapegoat mentality there, but I also acknowledge that Longstaff's performances, which he would admit himself if he was on this podcast right now, he would say, yeah, I haven't been very good this season. I'd be shocked if he said otherwise. And his numbers kind of argue that. I mean, he used very much of the logic of he should go, because I'm seeing a lot of I know there's the homegrown money that you take into consideration with selling a player that's come to the academy. Would you, are you sick and fed up of him? Or what about you, Wayne?
You've got to support your homegrown players, haven't you, and your local lads. And he's a decent player. He's never going to be top 4 player, is he? I think everyone can agree with that.
But he was a top 4 player last season.
Was he? Was he though?
I think if we'd had everybody fit, he wouldn't have played the amount of games he's played this season. And I think with a broken foot or whatever, I think he's a player, because he's quite high energy. He needs a rest now and again. It needs that ability to rotate the squad, which Howe hasn't had. So I think that's probably his downfall this season. He's probably just hanging out of his arse, to be fair, and he's really struggling. And he hasn't had he would have probably switched that middle 2 quite a lot this season, and he hasn't been able to. So that's probably why we're struggling with Longstaff. I agree with Wayne. He's not a top 6 player, but they're not going to sell him. He's going to stay in and around the squad, and he'll come in and do a job now and again when we get better quality in there. And that's where I am with him.
So there's no strong dislike of Longstaff on out of use, which is fine. Like I say, I mean, I see it and I hear it on the daily, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So that's what I was keen. I mean, I'm keeping that. By the way, everyone, your comments coming in, I will keep a little section, because obviously I'll stay on for another 15, 20 minutes. So I'll round it up to an hour. I will rush dart through the comments. I won't ignore, and we'll discuss some of the comments that have been coming in. So yeah, I was just interested to see that, because he, there's been Dan Burn talk earlier in the season when he was getting targeted by your Lutons, your Bournemouths. That was a spell for a while, and then that kind of dipped off. He moved over to centre back more recently. But Sean Longstaff for me has been an ever stay on social media of frustration, and that's just been a common.
If Tonali was in, and obviously Joe Linton was fit, then he wouldn't get his pace. So I'm glad we have got Longstaff, to be honest, because who would come in instead of him? So
that's very good. In terms of bottle half full, I won't say glass half full. That's a very, very good way of looking at it. So I'll take that.
But that's my point. That's my point, though, Wayne. He wouldn't. He would have been in and out, in and out, in and out. He wouldn't have played. He might have played 2 games in a row because Tonali had a knock, or whoever the opposition were. He wouldn't have played. So, he's only in there on misfortune of everybody else. Or a couple of quid on red rum to win the national, which obviously Tonali likes. So, it is what it is. He just wouldn't have been in there. So, the kid's getting pelters, and he's not good enough at the level we are now.
One more question.
Not
one more question on team selection for you. This is something that's been like boggling my brain the more I've kind of thought about it. Now we know Anthony Gordon did the overlap with Gary Neville, which was a great watch. If anyone hasn't watched it, I would recommend to do so. What I found interesting on that is when he was asked about position, he said he can play across the front three, number 9, right-hand side, but he did admit that the left-hand side is his favourite. Now, I'm worried because Harvey Barnes, £35 million, he was not. We do not have the luxury of a substitute for £35 million, in my opinion. If Eddie Howe had that plan, I'd be gobsmacked. But I'm just a little bit worried that I think Anthony Gordon's capable of playing down the right, but I still feel like, and he's saying it even on a podcast, that the left-hand side is Anthony Gordon's most dangerous position. He talked about how he likes to drag the defender in the touchline, and he'll play on them, and he'll figure out whether they want to push him to the touchline. If that's the case, he'll drive in. But to me, Barnes has never really played on the right-hand side in his career. And if anyone in the comments wants to correct me on that in his time at Leicester, then please do so. Do we have to run now with a Barnes left, Gordon right, Isak down the middle? Is that just going to be us set? Or are you maybe a little bit concerned like I am about that?
I'm not concerned.
Go on, sorry, Andy, I'll start with you. I should do that. I'm still learning being the host. I'll mention names so you don't talk over each other. Yes, Andy, I'll start with you.
I'm not concerned. I think sometimes when Newcastle have been at the best this season, that front three's rotated across the front. So Gordon's found himself in centre mid, centre forward. Isaac's found himself out wide left, out wide right. I think Almiron, the three of them have just moved across, and I think that's when we've been at our best, because the opposition don't know when it's going to happen and when it's going to change. I didn't listen to all the podcasts as well, but that question was quite pointed about that position. I wonder whether he gave a bit of an answer that everybody wanted to hear rather than he actually thought.
Yeah, I know what you mean with how Gary Neville did. I mean, I thought in terms of watching a podcast where you feel like two blokes are just having a chat in the pub, Gary Neville is great at that. He's actually, as much as I despise Man United with every ounce of me, Gary Neville's actually one of my favourite pundits, and I think the way he does his podcasts and he speaks to players on them interviews is really, really good. What's your thoughts on it, Wayne? I mean, it's interesting. Andy's just talked about how changing positions across that front three causes defenders absolute nightmares, and we should maybe continue with that rather than looking at them as sort of set in stone. Are you kind of that idea, or are you?
Yeah, you've got to play Gordon on the left. He'll give any defence a nightmare on that left. If he's going to be playing for England in the Euros, that's where he'll be, on the left. Because if you watch his videos back on the left, he cuts in, and no defender can deal with him. And I think that's why we've scored so many goals this season, obviously, with him cutting in. And how many penalties has he getting us this season, cutting in off that and things like that.
So that's interesting then. So based off what you're saying there, moving forward, and this might be a conversation for next season, what do you do with £35 million Barnes, assuming that Barnes is not that adaptable on the right-hand side? And again, I could be wrong when I'm talking about Barnes in the right-hand side of role, but as far as I understand, he's never really played there for Leicester. He was always their main threat from the left-hand side.
It depends what comes in at the summer, isn't it?
Right, okay.
That's
spicy,
the thing,
right?
Because we're going to spend money at the summer. It's just where's Eddie going to spend money? That could answer your question.
That's the £1 million question. That's the £1 billion question, which I wished was a £1 billion question. Right, we'll dive. Right, I will catch up on some comments now. I don't want to go too far back into some old debates, but whilst we're on teams and things, McBurney is out injured. Now, if that's true, Carl, that's interesting. So that you've made me look like a right fool with my stats. Note to self, Matthew, always check team news before you put slides on the screen. Leslie says drop Longstaff Murphy in his place with Tino right back if he's fit enough yet. I think if Tino is fit, we should be looking to get that man in, even just for his chant alone, which I love. Tino on the overlap. Ken's in the building. You can't have a go at Longstaff when Bruno and Gordon go down so easy. I'm assuming that was going back to the penalty the penalty decision, so I am darting back a little bit far. But yeah, it's a fair point. We probably don't criticise Bruno when we see him go down like a sack of tatties in midfield, which he likes to at times. Murphy was bullied, as was Kraft. Yeah, it just wasn't a good night. It wasn't a good night at all. Big Dan Burn is a centre-back. That's why he's more comfortable recently. Yes, Leslie, but let's not forget Dan Burn played left-back for a full season where we finished in the top 4. So I totally get what you're saying, but whatever the hell he was smoking or drinking last season was working for him, because we conceded the joint least goals with Man City. Longy versus Milan away was class. Oh, God, you're testing my memory there, Mr. Two-Coiner Phrase. I was hungover as hell in Milan. I remember he almost scored in the last couple of minutes, which would have literally had my pants off in the San Siro if he did. Let's keep flicking down. If you're playing 3 games a week, he would be used. I'm just coming back to comments. I think that'll be on long stuff. That'll be long stuff. Just stick Barnes on the right. If he is shy, okay. Go back to Murphy. You've just made football management sound so easy to coin a phrase. That is like proper Sunday League. Stick him on the right. If he doesn't work, we'll just go back to him. I like it. I like how simply you've made that problem sound. I think I can't get everyone's comments, ladies and gents, because I would be here all night. It sounds like Miggy and Chips could be back for Burnley, so the right could be balanced. The less, one point I did make quickly on that. Has anyone noticed how Miguel Almiron has not been talked about recently by anyone, and I mean anyone, in terms of, oh God, we don't have Miss Miggy. Can't wait to get Miggy back, because I haven't seen that anywhere, and that's not me suiting my own bias because I don't like the kid as a player, but it's just an observation that I haven't seen his name mentioned. It's almost as if he's like gone Matt Target. He's like gone under the carpet. Just an observation.
But Miggy's the same as Longstaff, though. He's played games where he wouldn't have played this year. If Tonali had been fit, Joe Linton had been fit, etc., Barnes had been fit, Willock had been fit, the squad rotation would have meant Miggy didn't play, though, Matty. So
I know.
And to be fair, Miggy's done nothing wrong. I think, last season he had spells where I thought he was really, really good. He's just a frustrating player, but I think his pace, etc., gets him out of jail a lot of the time. I really do. And I think, tomorrow against a team that sits deep, his pace would be really needed. But, I'm not his greatest fan either. I'm not. But I just think he's played too many games where he probably wouldn't have done this season if we'd had a full squad.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting you go back to that, Andy, with regards to the squad. I mean, I just sometimes sit and daydream into my bottle of my mid-temperature bottle of Coors Light, which you're allowed to grief us for drinking Coors Light. It's £2.49 for 4 bottles, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just say that? Cheap as chips. Imagine Newcastle this season with a fully fit squad, and I think so many fans forget, who say like, oh, Eddie didn't sign this, Eddie didn't sign that in the summer. And he's coming for so much flack for like signing Lewis Hall, for example, and not playing him. But if we had no injuries, we literally have a full first team squad of players injured or suspended. And that is insane to think that we would have a full team round again if everyone was available. I think that's so easy to forget that. And it almost gets you excited. Well, I know Botman and Lascelles are out long term. It gets you excited for next year. Right, I think I've just caught up on our comments about who said Trips is back. I thought he said today he won't be in this game. I think Andy had mentioned that Eddie Howe didn't really say much about Trips. I haven't watched Eddie Howe's press conference today, which is sad. I normally do. But without further ado, where's my videos? I'm going to get some, before we get into score predictions and things like that, I'm going to get some black and white banter. You know what time it's for. Who would like some black and white banter stats? Nobody ever wants black and white banter stats, but you're getting them anyway. Stats. Right, let's get into some black and white banter stats. Newcastle United have won 7 of their last 8 league games against Sheffield United, losing 1, with the exception being that 1-0 loss in 2021. We'll all remember that one. That was one of the most dire days under Steve Bruce. It was horrendous. I wouldn't even want to see the team that played that day. Sheffield United have lost 3 of their 4 Premier League away games against Newcastle, failing to score in each defeat. Hopefully that continues tomorrow. That would be absolutely lovely jubbly. Alexander Isak has scored in each of his last 6 Premier League home games, with only Andy Cole, and Alan Shearer netting in more consecutive matches for Newcastle in the competition. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was another lovely episode.
Stats.
That's right, my man. Stats. Sponsored and endorsed by nobody. Right, one player we haven't touched on just before I get in the scope, because I know we are getting around that hour mark now, which is nice. I've really enjoyed this one, actually. To have some new guests on has been great. Mr. Callum Wilson, we haven't talked about him. I want to know. I think this could be a game tomorrow. I'm not saying he won't start. I don't think any of us expect him to start. But if he gets half an hour tomorrow, I think Callum Wilson, his personality, he's chomping at the bit, and he knows that everyone's buzzing over Isak as one of the best strikers in the league. Do you see him having a big impact tomorrow?
You've got to, haven't you? You've got to, because when he comes on, he's a natural goal scorer, and if he is fit, he'll run amok tomorrow. Love to see Wilson play when he's fully fit. He's 32 now. How many fully fit games has he got left in him? We need to push it.
I'm still a big Callum Wilson fan. I am. And I know people are sort of saying get rid. And if there's a substantial transfer fee there, yeah, I don't disagree. We maybe should. But he's still one of the best natural goal scorers in the Premier League, in my opinion, when he's fit. Do you expect him to have an impact tomorrow, Andy?
I think you're right. I think he is one of the best, if not the best, in the Premier League as a natural goal scorer. In the 6-yard box, he score goals for you all day long. I just don't see him having a huge long-term future, because I do think that Howe likes this interchangeable front three where people move around, and he's not the same as Isak. He got frustrated on Wednesday night. I don't think you saw it on the telly. He was really, really frustrated 3 or 4 times about the lack of ball coming into the box, into key areas in the box, the quality of the ball. I know he had a right go at Isak. I think later on Isak was down the left and should have squared it, and he didn't. He had a right pop at him. He had a pop at Bruno for exactly the same.
Was the incident you just talked about, was it Anthony Gordon where he shot? He got the shot off and Callum Wilson was stood in the middle going absolutely berserk.
Maybe it was. He
Right.
had 3 or 4 where he just wasn't happy with the ball that wasn't coming into the box, or the quality of the ball coming into the box, or not a ball between the two, like the centre-half and the full-back, to allow Wilson to run onto him. It was just, it didn't seem to play to his strengths at all when he came on. And you come back to your quality before about, Bruno's misplaced passes, etc., etc. There was a lot of misplaced passes once he came on, and he got visibly frustrated. Can I just make one point, though? Leicester are promoted after...
I saw in the comments, actually.
After QPR beat Leeds 4-0.
Wow, right. There you go. I've also got some stats coming in, can I just say? Alan Thompson, sack the stat man, I should get you. I mean, I can't pay you very much. I can maybe give you a warm bottle of Coors Light if you want to do my stats in future. If we win tomorrow, this will be the first time in 130 years we would have won more than we have lost against Sheffield United. Newcastle 51 versus Sheffield United 50. Now that, Alan, Mr. Thompson, is a stat. Actually, just one more time, I'm going to stick it back on. Just
Stats.
That deserved that in its own thing. Right, gentlemen, the moment of truth, and I'm going to put this to everyone. I want everyone who's watching all 28 of you, which, it's gone up and down. I know it's a marathon, not a sprint with these lives, and I know I probably don't promote it to enough people, and I get wrong for doing that. I should probably stick it on my socials. Whack that like button if you are new around here. If you stuck around this long, please whack that like. It does help this go to more people, and it'll just be greatly appreciated. I'm going to start with you, Andy. Scores on the doors and first goal scorer tomorrow. And I will, if you get it bang on, I will screen record this and share it on my socials with some nice dramatic music.
Well, I knew you were never going to buy us a pint.
Hey.
I'm shite at these, I'm really bad. I think Gordon will score first.
Nice.
He'll score tomorrow, so I think we might win 3-1 tomorrow.
3-1. Yes, still no clean sheet then. We haven't had many. Have we had many of them? I don't think we've. Dubravka's just doesn't have a clean sheet in him, so I don't think we have had many of them. Tottenham was nice. And I'll move over to you, Wayne. So we've got a 3-1 Gordon to score first from Mr. Hill.
I was going to say 3-1, Andy, but I'm not going to come. I'm going to go 4-1. Isaac to score first.
4-1, Isaac to score first. And what comments have been coming in, right? I think they're trickling in slowly. Here they come. Right, we've got Alan Tidwell, 4-1, Gordon score 4-0. Sorry, Gordon scores first. Sorry, I've had a couple of bottles of Coors. I'm a bit of a lightweight. Leslie Johnston, 4-0 Gordon. Everyone is feeling Gordon. He didn't have a very good game, in my opinion, to get on Wednesday. And after that overlap podcast about his meditation, I hope he's doing some serious meditation before tomorrow's match. What have we got? I could see Wilson teaming up with Antonio at West Ham. Right, we've moved on from that, but that is an interesting point. I think that podcast stopped, by the way. I saw someone saying,
stopped it, didn't he?
Yeah,
Wilson stopped it, didn't he?
Podcast?
Yeah, Wilson stopped it. Yeah.
Oh, Bruno to score first. That's quite a quirky choice because Bruno does not score that many. He's not exactly a natural goal scorer for us, so I would take that one. 3-1 Isak. Yeah, I'm surprised none of these fine gentlemen on the live tonight mentioned Isak because he must be absolutely licking his lips at playing Sheffield United. Literally licking his lips.
Didn't Wayne say Isaac first goal scorer?
I said Isaac.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. I thought you both said Gordon. Apologies. I stand corrected. It's not very often I'm wrong, but sometimes I am. I will admit when I am. 4-0 Barnes. Yeah, I think Barnes is probably due one. I know he got that absolute beaut against West Ham in the last couple of minutes. 7-0, Mr. Andrew DB. Cheers to that. We've already put 8 past them. A 15-0 aggregate score would be nice. And yes, I did pass maths at school. Leslie Johnston, Isak hat-trick. That would be nice. I love all this. We had all this confidence before the Palace match, mind, and it went absolutely to shit. So that worries me a little bit. A Burn bicycle kick opener. You know, you can tell it's Friday night and there's no work tomorrow because the drinks are getting consumed. I just have a feeling we might not break them down for ages and Bruno saves the day. Oh, God. That took a turn.
I see that. I really do see that. And then when somebody mentioned Bruno scoring first, I nearly said that'll be because we struggle to break them down for 75, 80 minutes and Bruno comes up with something. I can really, really see that.
Keep going, Andy, and I'll mute you. 2-0, Longy and Isaac. Les, that would be nice. So everyone's getting on like a house on fire in the comments, which I like to see on a Friday night. Right, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, Andy, thank you very much for joining me. I'll probably see you soon. I might see you at... Still haven't got a Burnley ticket, unfortunately, because that one is the one that everybody wants to go to, because it's the nice, close one. So I might, if I don't go there, I might see you at Man United.
I've got a Burnley ticket and I've got a Man United ticket. Yeah. I need to, just if I don't see you, and I know we shouldn't talk about this on your podcast, but I need to put you in touch with my best mate who lives in Oz, who's travelling to that game. So
please do
that. And I think you
please
should say
do.
Congratulations to the women's team for their promotion as well. And to
my dog's barking in the background, so if anyone can hear that, I apologise. If you can't, then great, but she is going absolutely berserk. Maggie, it's almost over, Mags. The podcast is almost done. Yes.
So
Newcastle
United. Women's team champions promotion. I think it's a huge achievement for them. I think they've got a good group there. So
it certainly is. Sorry, she's going absolutely berserk. So I'm talking over her. Maggie, come on! You're ruining the end of my podcast, here, man. This is lovely. Just what I wanted right at the end. Yes, congratulations to the women. I'm not going to say that I watch women's football, which is why I don't talk about it much across my channels, because I don't watch it, so that would be false of me in a way to do so. But yes, you're right. Absolutely a wonderful achievement. And Wayne, one more time for anyone who's joined this late. Where are you tomorrow? What is going on tomorrow at Shearer's Bar? Just one more time.
Shearer's Bar, 11 o'clock. The Newcastle United Armed Forces Supporters Club launch day. So, pop in for a pint. Come and see us. There's going to be a couple of hundred of us there. So, it should be high spirits. definitely by kick-off, without a doubt. So just pop in and come and see us. And thanks for having us on. Cheers.
Yeah, well, all I'll add to that is obviously anyone who does go and join Wayne and his group in Shearer's Bar, the match is actually on in Shearer's Bar. I think some people don't actually know that. I know it's not a televised game, but Shearer's Bar does get all of the 3 o'clock kickoffs televised in their bar. So if you were in, you want to meet Wayne, I'm going to pop in. We can all have a lovely little overpriced beer in a really awful cup in Shearer's. And hopefully toast 3 points. Right, ladies and gentlemen, before I go, I want you to hit that like. I also want you to get Black and White Banter across all socials, TikTok, YouTube, you're on here, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I do try and do different content across all. I pretty much chuck about 20 hours a week in at the moment, which makes me sound like the biggest settle. That's why I don't have a girlfriend and just a dog. Get Black and White Banter across all socials. Big 3 points tomorrow for Newcastle United. And thank you very much for watching. Andy, Wayne, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully I'll bang into you both tomorrow. Away, Eddie House.